Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Chad Wiebe, top performing salesperson with over $50 million in closed sales in closed business across industries like solar, automotive, and high ticket sales. And known for his psycho mindset, Chad teaches others to how to think bigger, grow faster, and break through limits. Welcome to the show, Chad.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Chad. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you how one can transform their sales strategy and perhaps also match with over $50 million in, sales. So much of business that you can, everybody wants to create so much of business for them. So we'll learn all this from you. But before that, Chad, let's learn a bit more about your background, your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. Well, how I kind of got into it was by accident. I'm a career salesperson for sure, but when I was in high school, I had no idea this was the field I'd fall into. When I graduated, honestly, I was a very lazy, and this is sad to say it, I was lazy hourly worker. I was an electrician for a few months, then I worked in a warehouse, and real life was a real shock. And then I used to play American football. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's go back to this for a while. Enjoy having fun while you can, because obviously the workforce is just brutal. and again, I wasn't a good employee. It was my own problem. When I was finished that first season of playing football again, I stumbled across a job called Future Shop. And Future Shop was commission sales, but that was just coincidence. I just dropped my resume off in a multitude of places, but that's where it really took off for me, because I went from a kid that would come in late to take extra long lunch breaks and all sorts of things like that to what you sell is what you're paid. And so I went from missing and taking every break to the last second to I don't need lunch. I can work, and everything I do is what I'm going to eat. And I instantly was making about 30 an hour. And for an 18-year-old kid, that was mind-boggling to me. And so I never really did look back. I progressed from there. I did go back to football, stayed with Future Shop, went to RVs. And again, there's always setbacks. That was a big jump, going and selling RVs. They didn't really do a lot of training. And eventually, again, it's all not perfect. My son now is 9. We were pregnant with him at the time. They actually laid me off about a month before he was born. But it all works out in the end. A guy I worked with at Future Shop was selling cars. He said, hey, come drop a resume. I did that. They didn't actually hire me, but they set me up with another place. And that's where I got my true, real first mentor. That's where it really took off for me. Someone who invested in me, worked there for a few years. That's where I realized I had something special, because that was a group of like 5 stores. Within my second year, I sold 190 cars my second year in the industry in just 1 year. And that was the most in that group, or the second most in that group. So I knew I was onto something, and then became an obsession. Genuinely an obsession that I truly have never looked back from. I thoroughly enjoy. We did end up moving from that dealership, made great friends. And when we moved, I learned again, because that store was a perfect fit. It was a perfect stepping stone. I had the mentor that gave me the roadmap to begin, but the next store was very competitive. Then we moved because the real estate prices in the next town where we could buy a full-fledged house, for where I was closer to Vancouver at the time, where real estate is insane. So moving over provinces and buying a home is where we went. But that new sales floor had I want to say 10, 12 people. So you didn't have opportunities walking through the door. And what I learned at that job is the skill of the phone, being able to pick up the phone and actually drive business to yourself, because now it's not chance. I'm not relying on anyone else. I can create my income. So even though it was a big roadblock, or big learning, or big curve, I ended up within 3 months, I was the number 1 salesperson at that store. Again, I did that for about 2 years, transitioned once again, just because I like a challenge. Just before COVID, went and tried insurance sales. That one, I will say, was my least favorite of all the sales things I've tried to sell. Not that I couldn't do it. COVID definitely was a setback. I love the excitement. Someone gets a car, someone gets a trailer. I help someone save money with their solar. We're having fun. Me giving you, AJ, life insurance for when you die, that doesn't do it for me. I don't enjoy that transaction. I don't get that same, I don't feel like you do either. So I didn't last long in that field. There's great money in it. I respect everyone that does that, but that one wasn't for me. Went back to managing that same store I was at before. And it's kind of a small world story. So I left there to grow a sales team in solar, and that's where I am now. But what's small world about it is when I left, that guy I met at Future Shop that told me to apply when I got laid off at RVs, and he told me to apply, is the owner of where I work now. And I think that's really cool. We're not we don't live in the same area. It's just our lives have interconnected about 3-4 times. And you've seen what I've been doing through social media and stuff. And yeah, that's what I've been doing the last 2 years, growing a sales team here. We've been doing awesome, politely. First full year in business, the banks are shocked. You're not supposed to profit your first year, but we did really well. And the term psycho, I'm sure we're going to talk about, but I think we're psychos because we're in our second year, and I fully expect to 3 to 5x what we did the first year. And that's a little bit about the story. That's the story.
It's a wonderful story, Chad, and we'll certainly come to the psycho mindset first. But first, talking about your own story. You talked about your earlier, you've been very open about it, that earlier you used to look at life differently, a bit so-called lazy. You might look at it.
Yeah.
I will not look at it. Sometimes, people at different stages. And then with the change in things, with the opportunities and all, this is where you are. So how would you look at your own life earlier on and now? What did you change about yourself? And especially in terms of sales also, how did you look at your own transformation change so that, now you became one of the top salesperson?
Well, and those are tough questions to truly know the answer. Looking at myself then, the biggest change, well, the immediate one is just being paid what you're worth. It all kind of ties together. I think if you're doing something you enjoy, first of all, you're going to put more effort in. So I think a lot of people are trapped or think they're trapped in reality, things they don't need. They think they have to, I don't know what job. Most people aren't happy at their jobs. And that breaks my heart. That's just the true reality. Most people wake up, they go to bed on a Sunday night dreading the Monday morning. That is a normal reality for most humans. And that's just sad. And that's what I was in the beginning. And that's what I've learned. And that's still why I jump industries, because you should wake up. I went to bed. It was funny. We're not going, but last night I texted one of my buddies because we had a business idea we were talking about this morning. I'm like, I don't even want to go to bed. I'm excited for tomorrow to start, like genuinely, because I'm not dreading. Everything I do every day is different. It's a challenge. It fulfills me. And that's what I think is the difference. And it might not be sales for everyone. Obviously, that's not what everyone's wired to do. But I would encourage everybody, if you wake up every morning dreading to do that job, even if it means taking a pay cut, I know it's a cliche, but it's just so true. If you enjoy what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And I really enjoy what I do.
Absolutely. So how do I know whether I like sales job or not? Because why I'm asking is, see, we are at a very different situation in time with AI coming in and this whole area, every area that we go, all things are changing. Even in sales, you see AI will come, it will start it is already making calls for you. So I want to understand that people do not have that much of time to, try out, or maybe so it is better to try out your own mindset, look at yourself. Who is this salesperson's job today for? Is it for only specific people, or is it some things you can learn and you can do it because there is technology?
We're all in sales, AJ. I don't care if you're in sales or you're not in sales. If you're married, you're in sales. You're selling an idea where you're going for dinner. You might not be good at it, but we're all in sales all the time, first of all. Secondly, I wanted to touch on the AI thing you said, because I think that's an interesting, and I've thought about that because it's getting pretty good. But here's the thing. One of the questions that in some of these interviews I've been asked is, why do I think I've been so successful? And I've tried to train a lot of people. And I think it goes with the AI thing. And this is my theory. This is my personal belief. AJ, when we're talking right now, I really enjoy this. Not because it's being recorded. I enjoy getting to know you, getting to know the person across from me. And I genuinely do. I'm not just saying that. And I don't understand, call it a sixth sense. I think you can feel that. Okay? I truly believe you can feel that. If I faked it, it's not real. But I think you can feel that. And I don't think AI is going to be able to do it. So AI can sound like me. You can steal my voice. You can you can make it say things, but it can't have the human to human connection. And that I truly believe that. I do think AI can do a lot of great things. I use it in my work. I use it daily. I think AI is great. And I've seen it make a sales call successfully. I know it can do it, but I don't think if you put me versus an AI, even 5 years from now, that sixth sense, that human on the other end that knows I care about them, I think they can tell the difference. And I think it'll get stronger.
Absolutely, absolutely. I get it. I get it. And I totally understand what you just said, that you don't need to say about the connection, you will feel it. And when you feel
Mhm.
it, words are not required, at least in such situations. But I want to understand, when you talked about AI, what about cold calls? Will AI be better at cold calls than a human? How do you see
I,
that? Or is
I
there a
stand by this. I would stand by the same answer. Now, the average human, okay, I don't know if you've done the cold calls. If you've never done it, I think the AI is going to do better than the average Joe. I'll give AI that. But someone who knows what they're doing, it's the exact same thing. I actually am training, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm training 2 18-year-olds. Like, one is still in high school. Like, I'm getting them ready for this spring. And what I told one of them last night is, when you go to someone's door, when you call someone on the phone, they might be angry. They might, like, one of the they should leave that conversation happier having spoken to you. And so if you're having fun, and I'll even say I had a call, I don't really door knock anymore at this stage in my career, but I'm training them to do so. So I actually went back to my roots and I did that last night. And I knocked on a gentleman's door, and I would say that is the most difficult version of sales, personally. I think that is the hardest one. It's not the most enjoyable process, but I'm having fun. They're having fun. I did it for an hour. We set about 4 appointments. One of the worst ones, quote unquote worst, and that's why it's not a big deal and why I think we're better than AI, is he said, "Hey, I'm not interested." And I said, "Hey, I totally get it. Hey, blah, blah, blah. Electric bills, this and that." And he's like, "No, I'm not interested." And I was like, "Oh, so you're like interested in paying your electric bill." Now, AI can terminology, facial expressions. If I say that with a straight face calmly, but he can tell I'm saying it as a joke. I know he doesn't enjoy paying his electric bill, and he knows that I know that. And I don't care. I don't even care. The conversation kind of ended there, but he laughed. He went back inside to his wife, and I told my young 18-year-old, I'm like, I don't care that he didn't do it, but I think his day is better now because we interacted. I truly believe that. And so on the phone, maybe I'm sick, but I spend 2 to 3 hours kind of cold calling. You can check my TikTok. Like, I just posted one the other day. I called a guy that had been called in a year and a half. I will have them laughing. We're going to have fun. I don't care if they go forward, but I don't think AI, again, it's a connection. It's a human. And that's what gives me hope, because a lot of people are scared they're going to get replaced by AI. And I actually think AI could replace a lot of us in a lot of things. But and in sales, there's some sales industries I think that could be replaced by AI. But the top performers, the real humans, and I mean real, because there are a lot of people just going through the motions, they can't be replaced, is my belief.
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of times we see a lot of good salespeople are there who make the right way of selling.
Mhm.
But within their company, when it comes to after sales, customer service, that is where the company lags behind. Do you think such people are the ones who are taking away jobs away from the real sales people who are working so hard because their back end is not so good? Because some of these people who need to look at after sales and customer satisfaction, they have created hurdles for a lot of good salespeople and keeping them dejected, because the customer will call the salesperson
Yeah.
after some time. How do you
Yeah,
see
and I
this?
think that one's it's not an all encompassing, right? I think it depends on the company you work for, right? Because if you got to find that you're working for the right place, because there's ethical, like, there is a stigma around sales, right? When someone says you're a career salesperson, I think the average person thinks you're greasy. I genuinely think that's the preconceived notion. And the reason that is there are bad salespeople that don't connect and don't care about the end result, and there are people that work for bad companies. And so the fulfillment. So I don't think I could knock on that person's door if I thought what we were going to do for them would hurt their situation. I don't think, not everyone is that way. Not everyone's wired that way, but you get to choose what you're representing. So if I didn't think we had good fulfillment, or if I didn't think that the people that I'm supporting by growing this company cared about the people that I'm talking to, I shouldn't be working for that company. So you're right. I couldn't say it's the fault of a salesperson, but it's their fault for choosing to work for that company, right? I can go work for the worst company in the world. I can be all the good intentions. That's still my fault for supporting something that I don't believe in. And I'll also say, I talked about fulfillment. I don't think you wake up the next day pumped to go sell some garbage. I don't. I don't think that would go hand in hand with that. So pick who you're going to work for. Be with the right people. You're going to spend more time with them than your wife. So I think just pick your right situation, and then you won't have that issue.
What is your most effective cold call strategy? And is it still the time for cold calls now, or is that age
100%.
almost over?
No, it's not over. It's not over. That's an easy one. It's 100% thriving. I do it every day. It's not an issue. Like you 100% can. That's an easy one. Keep your cold call. It's just an excuse. It's just like anything. It's like going to the gym. No one wants to do it, but once you start doing it, as long as you go into it with a good energy, that's the key. You go into it being like, I really don't want to do this. And then you call the person and they can tell you don't want to talk to them. Nobody's having a good time. That call's not going to go well. So no, cold calls are still going strong. And one of the strategies you got to take, it's a mental game. What I'm saying here is if you go into that tired, if I stay up till midnight and I got to make calls tomorrow, those calls are going to suck. If I'm not taking care of myself spiritually, physically, mentally, it is more mind. You end the day tired, even though I physically didn't do much. I'm exhausted at the end of it because I'm putting everything I have into these conversations. So one is take care of yourself and go into that with the right energy, that it's going to be fun. You have to do that. And then one of the easiest, most common ones is most cold calls. If I was to call you, I might not know anything about you. I might not know where you live. But most times you should have their name. I think that majority of the cold calls. And so one of the most simple things that I think starts to call off on the right foot is if I'm calling you, and this is going to, maybe you won't even pick them on. There's two answers. Say, hey, I could say, hey, is this AJ? Or I could say, hey, AJ, how's it going? And what I believe is that first 2 seconds, and it's you can Google cold calling trainers. I think a lot of them still say, hey, is this AJ? I think that 2 second switch puts you on the right trajectory because psychologically you're thinking, he knows my name. I don't know who this is. And you're trying to not offend me. You're trying to figure out, he knows my name. He talked to me like a friend. And then from there, I'm going to treat you like a friend and we're going to have fun. But I think that sets it up. Whereas in the first 2 seconds, if I say, hey, is this AJ? You're like, I don't know who you are. Why are you calling me? Like, it's a different psychological reception. I think that would just be a very simple, tangible. Anybody can make that change. And I think you'll have better success at it. Come with the right energy and just start talking with a little familiarity.
Right, Chad. Talking of, energy, the right energy, it reminds me of that movie, I don't know, in Leonardo DiCaprio, he makes that call to one of the, remember that? And
I do. I'm a big fan of Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah.
Yes. And that scene, he's full of energy. But his intention is, and instead of $5,000, he sells him stocks of, penny stocks, all junk stocks of $10,000.
I struggle morally because I love that story. I love that movie. But on the moral side, he was a bad person. I've even read his book, like The Real Life Person, because he does know what he's talking about. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And I love that scene. I actually find that scene motivating. I don't take the part where he is selling someone junk. I don't like that. But I love the feeling of everyone's watching him make that call and like, whoa, I do. I enjoy that movie. But at the same time, when you think about it, sadly, he was not doing good things with his skills.
Right. But here we have to also see that the person on the line, also other side of the line, is also being a bit greedy, a bit foolish to not know where he or she is putting their money.
Yeah, you could take some onus for sure.
Yeah. So in that sense, what is your strategy when you look at a cold call and talking to someone? What do you think your person? Are you selling? Are you informing? How are you doing? Are you networking? What should be the mindset of a salesperson in today's time? Because the buyer is not, or potential buyer is not stupid and may not be greedy.
Yeah. I think that depends totally on the industry. So it's not always going to be the same, right? When my car strategy is different than my solar strategy, which is different than there's some long-term ones. I think the biggest one is they should want to talk to you again. So if that call wasn't the best part of their day, then they don't want to talk to you and they're dreading when they're going to ignore you next time. But if they smiled, so I don't care what industry you're in, but if you made that person smile, one of my favorite compliments I got from a customer early on, she told my boss, Chad's everybody's grandson, nephew, little brother. You just have the charisma, that friendship. So if you can have them enjoy that call and you are that best part of the day, that knock, that whatever, the odds of having a second interaction, I can't say per se, hey, do I want to make a sale? I don't typically want to make a sale, for the record, on a cold call. I do want to make a next step though. So I guess a successful cold call in today's standard is I want to have an appointment to come to their home or have a Zoom call. That's my goal of today's phone call. I don't care if you do it, and I'll tell them that. Hey, we're going to go on this call. You're either going to be so excited when we're off it, or you're going to be exactly where you are now. Really, there's a no lose situation, and you just try. Yeah. And that's my day every day. I want to set up 3 of those presentations. 2 of them are going to show up. I'm going to sell one of them, and I make a deal every day. And that's why cold callings are the best. Because if I work and I just wait for someone to walk through the door, I don't know. I could do nothing for a week. I have no control. But with cold calling, I have full control of my income. I know how many appointments they need to book to present, and every one of them is going to be happy. And I know how many of them are going to end up buying, and that I can actually end up helping. And yeah, it's the best, most strictly way I can make you successful. You can go work for the best industry in the world, but if you're not willing to make the calls and drive your day, I can't tell you what you're going to make. But with cold calling, you have full control of your income.
Absolutely. You talk about one big mistake most salespeople make. And so tell us about that. Any particular mistake that most of the salespeople make, and the way if they can avoid that?
There's a lot of mistakes that salespeople can make. Big ones are thinking about what you're going to make and not how it's going to help the client. They can smell it. I had a very rich friend, and he told me this when I was like 20 years old. I'm like, he bought a sports car every year. And he's like, I can smell a desperate salesperson. I remember distinctly, like, this is a long story, but he's like, I can smell it. And so in me, this visual, it's such a visual thing, the stink of a desperate salesperson, that stuck with me my whole time. So it's not about what you make. It's how you can help that person, how you make them feel. The results will come first. Other one, you are not a salesperson if you cannot ask for the deal at the end. Okay. So one of the most obvious ones, but people still do, is they make the first call, they set the appointment, they did a great job presenting, they know their product, they showed the value, and the person is like, okay, well, I'll let you know. And you're like, okay, sounds good. That went great. It's so obvious, and it shocks me to this day, but there is a very high percentage of people that still don't ask for the business. They've done everything, but the person probably wants it. So ask them. It's very, very common to not, and it's an easy one to change. If you are not asking for the business, and if you ask, then that's where the new salesperson, then you know if they say no, why. And sometimes that reason's logical, and sometimes it's something you can solve for them. So definitely those are tangible things that someone can change right away.
Right. But what about, you talked about that they should, the potential buyer should be, should want to talk to you again. Mm-hmm. And trying to push a sale will not want them to talk to you again. How do you balance both the things?
And it's the art of conversation. I don't know how to rep this one to you, but you can push without pushing. Okay. I could say, like, AJ, okay, are you going to buy this now? No, I got to think about it. Okay. Would you want to buy this now? I'm ignoring you emotionally. I'm ignoring you. And so now you don't like me. That interaction is uncomfortable for you. But if I say, hey, AJ, so does that all make sense? You want to go forward? You're like, well, I got to think about it. Hey, totally understand, AJ. I'm acknowledging how you feel. Totally understand, AJ. But like, if like, okay, we want to connect. What I really like that's passive, call it passive aggressive, is okay. So you say you want to say, okay, when do you want to reconnect? So today is Thursday. I want to reconnect Monday. Okay, sounds good. Between now and then, AJ, what do you want to think about? Just so that maybe on Monday when I call you, I can have the information prepared. And then they probably could tell you something you could tell them right now. And if it is something I can solve right now, then great, solve it. And then you say, okay, well, now that I've explained that, are you open to getting this you can ask again because you did solve it. But another mistake would be, AJ, I don't know if you're married or not, but if they say they need to talk to their wife, that's fine. That's acceptable. It's my dumb fault for not telling your wife to be there. In my opinion, there are other things you can do, but when I make a call, when I set the appointment, I ask, hey, does anyone else live in the home that wants to see this? Oh yeah, I think my wife would. Okay, perfect. She's good at 4 o'clock. I set myself up way before we begin so that if I get there and it's just you and you're like, I gotta talk to my wife, I could be pushy and a dick about it, but it's my fault as a professional for not having her there in the first place. So it depends on the situation if I think it's a smoke screen or not. But if I believe that you were interested and I ask the question and that's it, I get it, and we'll reconnect in a couple of days. But you just need to listen. I have an 18-year-old. He's now 22. He's been working for me for 4 years. He gets it now. I was talking to him on the phone. I'm like, you know what? You were so bad. People did not think you were genuine because he wasn't. He was 18. He didn't care. He was doing what I said, but people could tell he wasn't listening. You would say your wife, you'd ignore, he'd go to the next thing. I don't want to talk to that person again. You don't feel heard. But as long as I listen and I acknowledge what you say and I actually acknowledge it, I try to solve what you said and I'm listening, we're conversating. That's not pressure. That's just helping. If I ignore what you said and just ask for the deal again, you're right. And now that no longer was enjoyable and I don't expect them to pick up when I call.
Right. Talking about, psychology a bit here, in terms of women and men, do you think salespeople, when they make these calls or talk to the potential clients, men or women, they subtly start taking men more seriously, women not so, and women can sense it? What should be their strategy? Should it be the same? Should it be different?
I don't know if I agree. So I don't know if the strategy can be different. I would say that they have different advantages, but I wouldn't say if I have a man and a woman that are both 25 and they both interview today, I couldn't tell you one's better based off their sex. Like they both have advantages. I think a woman cold calling is going to do better than a man. It's a good one. Both same skill set. I think that the woman, the guard is down. They don't expect it as much. And maybe even men want to talk to a woman. Just it just is a possibility. So if anything, I think a good saleswoman might even outperform a man. There is going to be, and maybe it's a culture difference here. I'm in Canada. There is going to be people that want to do business, but it's not very often where I think that plays a factor. A bad salesperson is a bad salesperson. A person that doesn't know their product is a person that doesn't know their product. I don't think the sex plays a huge role, but if both of them were exactly a tie, I would actually give the edge to the woman because I think that people's guards are naturally down more with a woman than with a man.
What about if the client is a man or woman and the salesperson can be either of the two?
I think it's just on the range. Okay. So if I'm talking to a man or woman, well, okay. I did an assessment just before this. I was at a client. Now they were both a man and a woman there. Yeah, I had both. But I always, just to be safe, I am making eye contact. I was at their home. I make eye contact with the woman. I shake the woman's hand first. Because in the end, there's a chance that the man is not going to be offended by this most times. But if I only talked to him the whole time and I shook his hand and I did hers after, there's a chance I leave and she's offended. It's much better to play it safe but it's just one-on-one. You will understand that all people are different, but I wouldn't play it into sex per se if it's just one-on-one interactions. I think each person's different. You can have a woman that's a CEO. You can have a woman that's a stay-at-home mom. You go into that interaction, and as you get to know them, you can kind of tell that, hey, you should talk fast. You should talk slow. She wants to go straight to the business. No, she wants, you know what I mean? And that's the same for men. But that's another advice, maybe circling back. If you have both and they're in front of you, give way more attention to the woman because there's a chance that you could offend. And so it's just best to make sure that you're not over the top, be nice to both, but shake the woman's hand first, make sure you're talking to her and then him. And everything should work out because ultimately, I don't know who the decision maker is. Every family is different.
Absolutely. And now that brings me to the psycho mindset, sales psycho. That's the sign that I see in the backdrop.
Yes.
Wonderful sign. Tell us a bit about this. What is this?
Well,
psycho is a psycho. I thought it's something else.
Well, that's why I picked it. To be honest, I love the way the word makes people feel. Because it's a word, like you think negative. I know that, like killer, like I'm a crazy person killer.
Killer deal.
And no, that's it is, and that's what they're called. I get it, but where it stemmed from? There's a story there, and it was just minor. It was just in a meeting where we had, like I said, we had an awesome first year. We had an awesome first year. We were in a meeting and all he said is, you guys are all psychos because we had a year that no one believed was even possible. And we think, first of all, we think we sucked. we're so much more potential. And we're like, we will do 5 times more business this year. And we all truly believe that. And he labeled us as psychos. And I feel like no one else thought about that word after that. But that word stuck with me for weeks. And I'm like, we are psychos. And I want to be a psycho. And I like the feeling of being a psycho. And that's where waking up tomorrow, I believe I can accomplish great things. So what the psycho mindset is, again, like I said in the beginning, it ties to that. People wake up bored, not excited. They don't want to live their life. I wake up excited. I believe I can make more than the average person. It might not happen, but I believe I can make more than the average person's monthly income tomorrow. Everything, the stars align and I kill it. Nothing stops me. And I can do that. And that excites me. It's not just the money. It's the people don't think it's possible. I want to think big. So goals, a lot of people talk about goals, and a lot of people talk about big goals, but I think you need to set 3 goals. And I think this is super important. And these are long-term goals. I don't mind sharing mine. So I thought about this a lot about 6 months ago. So my 3 goals, lifetime. I would like to buy a castle and live in it. Okay. Maybe I went to Italy in this past September. And you can buy castles. Look it up. It's actually surprisingly feasible. And so in my life, I would like to, I don't know if it's France, Italy, somewhere else, but you can live in an old school castle, $2 to $5 million. It's a lot of money, but you could do it. So that's goal 1. Goal 2, I think, so that's a personal, buy a Lambo, whatever that is for you that excites you. That's the personal financial make money. Second one is, I think, the most important. I don't know what is close to AJ's heart, if it's bullying or poor or whatever, but you need a thing that really pulls on the heartstrings that you care about that's bigger than you. So for myself, it's trafficking. Nothing that's happened to me in my personal life, but just things I've seen, things I've read, it just makes me sick, which I'm sure is most people, but that's my thing. So I take a percentage of my income for both, I'm a Christian, so 10% of my income goes away, but that's where it's going. And so if I choose to not work all next week and watch Netflix, I'm letting those people down. I'm not getting my castle, but I'm also letting those people down. And so that makes it bigger than me, which gives me the ability to do more. And the last one is, I think, a business goal. I don't know if that can be for everyone. And that's what we're doing right now. I decided I can sell whatever. I don't care what it is, and I will be successful. I know that. I want to build a brand. There's a lot of trainers like the Jordan Belfort guy from that movie, like the real guy, not the actor, but the guy he's portraying, or Andy Elliott or Grant Cardone, or all these massive sale trainers. And they're great. I'm not trying to beat them, but I don't think they're better than me. I truly don't. And so I think that's why I started going on podcasts. It's why I started posting my stuff on social media. Is I'm going to keep doing my business life. But in 5 years from now, I want to see, I don't think they're better than me. I think they're great. And I think they know things I don't know. I'm not disrespecting them, but I know I can be them. So I'm going to take actions that make that happen, and we'll see. And if it doesn't, that's fine. But that's why I'm going on shows like yours. That's why I'm taking on some clients and training them for free. Just to these 18-year-old kids. I don't get a lot out of them, but I want to see them succeed, because if I can do that with them, I can do it with anybody. And so those are my 3 goals. Those are big goals. Those are lifetime goals. They're not going to be accomplished right away. You need to have those. I think number 2 is the most important, but you need to have them, and you need to see them. You need to think about them. And then you can set smaller milestones to get there. But that's where the psycho thing, because people will say, I talked to a guy the other day, I want to make 200 grand. Why? I want to buy this car. Why? Like, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. He's going to keep doing exactly what he's doing. It doesn't get him fired up and believe. So you need to find out what that thing is for AJ or for you as an individual. And you have to truly excite you. Because if it doesn't excite you, there's going to be a day you're going to wake up tomorrow. You're like, I don't want to do this right now. And I just labeled that as being a psycho, because that also is exciting. You're different. You're special. We all are special, but we don't act that way. So if you believe it, if you say it and you keep telling yourself it, who's the other one podcaster? Blanking on his name. Joe Rogan, the big Joe Rogan. He said something that I've always thought. I always think there's a camera on me since I was a child. Like, call it whatever. Like, I was cleaning my room. Like, I remember distinctly picturing that people were going to watch my life movie. And now it's even more of it. And he said that in a thing. And I'm like, no, that's exactly it. And if I think that my grandkids, I don't have grandkids, but when my grandkids are going to watch my life story, I don't want them to think that, oh, wow, he scrolled Instagram 3 hours every day. I want them to see something that would make them proud and make something that make me proud. So those are mindset shifts, and that's the psycho thing. I think, what else could I tell people that would help them shift? There's one other, the view. Mental disabilities, quote unquote. ADHD. I am not diagnosed, but 99% of people that know me would fully be convinced. Everyone, honestly, I would say I'm 100% ADHD, but my wife thinks I'm not. She's the only one. And who knows? It's irrelevant. I don't care. I think it's my superpower. There's another trainer that said that, and I'm like, it's so true. Even if I went and I saw someone, they're like, Chad, you have this, which I truly believe I do. But I'm special, and I like who I am right now. I like who's talking to AJ. I like who talked to my clients. If I take some drug that lets me think, quote unquote, more clearly, that's not me. And so and again, psycho, call it what you want. I understand I'm different. I don't want to be normal. And that's just taking on that identity, because normal is boring. Normal, people wake up upset. That's quote unquote normal. I don't want to be normal. And that's the shortest way I could brand it to try to explain it to you.
Wonderful. There is much to learn about life, about salespersons, about a life of a salesperson. And I'm sure a lot of people will want to connect with you, learn more from you, about your dreams, about your everything that is possible for them to learn. What's the best way for them to do so?
Right now, I'd say Instagram or TikTok are my most frequent socials. I'm probably going to get a website running up here later. But quite honestly, if you're the right person, I'm not charging anything. I just want to connect with people that want to grow spiritually, physically, or financially. And if I believe that you think you're a psycho, I will charge you nothing. I will help you accomplish it. So if you reach out to me and that's something that gets you going and I believe it, I see it in your eyes, I'm looking for individuals like that. So Instagram, Chad Wiebe Sales Psycho is my handle for both socials. And yeah, looking forward to helping some people.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.